Well, hi everyone, Ken Ring here, www.predictweather.com. I just thought today we'd talk about volcanoes. The Iceland one has just gone off in the last day or so. And as you know, it's been the new moon. Now, you've all probably gotten heartily sick of me saying that. But let's look back at some of the other new moon volcanoes. Mount Pinatubo in the Philippines, that went off in June the 12th, 1991, and that was also a new moon day. It was also a new moon day when Mount Tambora in Indonesia went up in April the 10th, 1815, which killed about 92,000 people. And that eruption and the resulting massive clouds of dust and ash affected most of the northern hemisphere, caused unusually cool temperatures, and some say that it was the reason that the crops failed in 1816, and they still sometimes refer to 1816 as the year without a summer, because they say that there might have been a cooling of the atmosphere due to all that ash and cloud not letting the sun's rays through. Then there was the volcano that made the 4 engines stall of a plane, a British Airways Boeing, in 1982, and that story was on TV1 Close-Up in New Zealand this evening. The pilot said it was a completely dark night. So what does that tell us? The only time that the night is completely dark is when it's a new moon. Of course, the planes fly above the clouds, so if there's any moon around, you'll see it whenever you're flying. Of course, not every new moon causes a volcano, but you can't help wondering. In the case of Mount Pinatubo in 1991, some planes were 600 miles away and they were still affected. So maybe some unexplained plane crashes at or near full moons, or especially new moons, may have some link to this kind of thing. The point is, not one media story has linked the moon to volcanoes, and it doesn't even feature anywhere on Google. Plenty of tie-up to earthquakes though, and they're pretty much the same thing. But that's how little scientists are actually looking at the moon as a possible trigger for these big tectonic events. We've just had extra large king tides over the last few days, as did other countries too, and they've also just had a huge devastating earthquake in China. Something else is going on too. We had another geomagnetic solar storm, which began on Wednesday. That's a storm on the sun, right on new moon, and continued yesterday. And they reckon it was related to sunspot number 11060, which set off a coronal mass ejection as it was rotating around the western rim of the sun. Now, these things are like explosive blasts of electromagnetism from the sun, and they affect the Earth's magnetic core. They come all the way here, but it only takes them 8 minutes to get here. But here's the thing. They also seem to chime in when the moon peaks in one of its cycles. It wouldn't be that the moon causes stuff to happen on the sun, more like the other way around, because the moon's closer to us, and the sun and moon are working together. And I think the sun triggers the moon in terms of the moon's cycles getting in time with those of the sun. One thing's for sure, nature isn't random. To create a big thing like a volcano, you just imagine, you need a lot of marshalling of energy. It's like building anything. You have to get together your plans, your materials, your workers. You have to fire them into action. Nothing happens by itself or for no good reason. And nature isn't that stupid. Look, just one thunderstorm has the energy of a dozen Hiroshima-sized bombs. So that's how much energy was needed to put the thing together in the first place. And one cyclone, just one cyclone, releases the energy of 45,000 thunderstorms every second. Just imagine that. Now, you can't tell me that all that just happens. It has to be organised somehow by huge forces, presumably by big things like moons and suns getting in certain positions. For instance, let us suppose you're trying to push over a brick wall. You have to get your body into a certain position to do that. It's not going to fall over by itself, and it's not going to do it just by you folding your arms and looking at it. So, are there more volcanoes coming in Iceland? Well, no, not once the new moon has passed. And here's another thing. Where was the moon at the time of the Iceland eruption? Well, it was 10:30 a.m. on Wednesday the 14th of April when those first stones started coming down the mountain, and just after 11 a.m. in the morning when the eruption got going, and it reached a head of steam around 11:30 a.m. Now get this, at 12 noon, that's barely half an hour later, the moon passed over Iceland. Remember, the Earth moves 1,000 miles an hour beneath and past the moon, which is pretty fast. Iceland is 270 miles wide. As a comparison, at its widest point, New Zealand at Taranaki is less, only 220 miles wide. Now it takes the moon 16 minutes to cross Iceland, yet there it was exactly overhead in that 16-minute window of opportunity at the time of the eruption. Coincidence? Well, you be the judge. Me, I don't believe in coincidence, not ever. As to local weather, there's a front crossing the middle of the Australian Bight at the moment, bringing some showers to South Australia and Adelaide, and that front should cross Tasmania today, Saturday, and by Sunday it should be sitting in the middle of the Tasman, and it will probably be picked up by the New Zealand Met Service radar. You'll see it on the news that night, and you'll also see that it'll be bringing showers to us. And I plan for that front to be over New Zealand around the 19th and bringing us rain about the 20th. I know some places are still needing a whole lot, so, fingers crossed. So, cheers everyone. See you tomorrow.